is up, comic book movie fans? My name is Jonathan May, and today I'm joined by a special guest on Comic Book Cinema. This is someone I actually met through TikTok, and he has quite the following there. Mr. Dustin, what you want to take away with the introductions there?
Yeah, my name is Dustin Vitale. I'm a director, producer. I co-own Cloudy Sky Entertainment. Yeah, I do everything I can in the film industry, but my number one passion is just comics and movies. I love talking about them, so I'm glad to be here, man.
Heck yeah. And I was just talking to him before we started the show about that massive movie collection. I love that. My wife does not like my movie collection. I'm actually not where I'm from Mississippi, but I'm currently working. I travel for work. So I'm in Oregon right now, and I might end up 6 months from now somewhere else crazy. So I can't bring my movies with me. I tried that, but it's not very fun when you have to box all of them up. But yeah, man, I'm definitely an admirer of that very impressive movie collection.
Yeah, it's something. So I am divorced. I was married at one time in my life, and when I was married, my ex-wife would not have allowed this. So this happened after that. So I definitely get that. Yeah, it's a drug. I should definitely be in rehab for this.
Let's just say this. There's already been conversations that we're going to move the movie collection, Jonathan, out of the living room. And that just hurts my heart. But anyway, So today we are here to review the illustrious in all of its glory, Superman 2. So obviously, Dustin, you're a huge movie fan, and that's why I asked you to come on the show. But I think, I kind of talked about this. I don't know if you've seen any stuff on this YouTube channel, but I reviewed the first Superman film, and in my opinion, it just, obviously the special effects aren't going to hold up. Yes, I appreciate these films for everything that they were, and the importance that they are huge for the comic book movie, industry. I mean, they paved the way in a lot of ways, but these special effects do not hold up. And I'm sure at the time, I think, don't get me lying on the year of this film. I think it was like late 70s, right? For its time, I'm sure this was the peak of special effects for that original, 4 Superman films. But that's just kind of the big thing that sticks out. And it's like an eyesore for me personally, because yes, I appreciate this film and everything that it did, but the special effects, man, it's a big hang up for me. What do you think?
Yeah, 1980. That's when this came out, 1980. Yeah, no, this special effects don't hold up, but for the time, it was everything. They were amazing. I mean, it was something else. But I mean, because of CGI and where we are now, yeah, no, it's not. But if it was not for these Superman films or even the early Batman movies, we would not have MCU. We wouldn't have the DCU. We wouldn't have Peacemaker. We wouldn't have any of this stuff, because there was a time in Hollywood when the studios did not want to touch these properties. They didn't want anything to do with the comic books.
And that was this era when these Superman movies came out.
It was. It took, the first Superman movie, that pretty much almost didn't happen. And that went through so many troubles. So but yes, the special effects at the end of the day did not hold up.
Unfortunately. And I'm not saying that these movies don't hold a special place in my heart, because they absolutely do. I grew up watching these movies on repeat, especially Superman 4, which is unfortunate. But I think that there's a lot of cool stuff that happens in this film. I find myself torn on the whole Lois and Superman love story in this film. I think that it's really cool in a different perspective that we haven't seen on something like that in any Superman media. But at the same time, I feel like it's almost unnecessary and pointless. But it does serve as a cool, spot for Superman to be in this film when 3 Kryptonians emerge, from his past, like ghosts from his closet, literally. And, here he is, which, by the way, I just thought it was so odd and so I don't know, strange and odd, I guess, are the best two words I can describe his decision, his very fast and hasty decision to just, oh, you know what? I think I'm just going to make myself a complete human for whatever reason, because it doesn't really, I guess the movie doesn't do a good job of explaining his motivations of changing himself just like that into a dweeb. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll say this. It's I don't know whose idea that was to make Clark Kent a dweeb. I didn't get that one at all. Because he's very smart. I mean, he's got to be a reporter. He can't be like that and be a reporter. I don't know whose idea that was. Yeah, the Lois Lane storyline, should not have been in this. And I'm not a fan of that, to be honest with you, in any comic book movie. Me personally, I don't watch or read comic books for the love affairs or for those subplots. No, I want my action.
I'm the same way, but
so I don't know, man.
It seems like if you really think about it, though, especially in origin films, there's always that love interest every time.
Every time, man. Every time.
It's crazy.
Maybe that's the studio's way of pulling in more people.
The female audience, maybe.
The female audience, yeah. I don't know.
One interesting tidbit is how things were back in those days with smoking in particular. You would never see Lois Lane smoking a cigarette, even in a PG-13 movie these days. So it's just interesting how different the culture was when it comes to, smoking and tobacco use, I guess, in general. I thought that was interesting to see her smoking in the office like that.
Yeah. Well, also remember back in the day, you could smoke in buildings.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I remember growing up, I'm an 80s baby, and I remember growing up, my mom smoked in the house. Like, that was just like a thing. And nowadays it's frowned upon. In a lot of places it's illegal. So
I know, it's crazy. And I can remember, I think you and I are close to the same age. I was born in 88.
86.
Yeah. So I can remember going to Waffle House and there was a smoking section, when I was a kid, which is nuts to think about now. Like half of the restaurant was smoking like a choo-choo train. And everyone else, like that's crazy to think about restaurants in general. But I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. One bit that was really hilarious to me, this is probably the funniest line in the movie, is when Zod and the other Kryptonians are in the White House, right? And they got the president on his knee and he's right about to kneel before Zod. And right before he does, he's like, oh God. And he kneels and then Zod's like, it's Zod. I thought that was so funny. I died laughing.
Terrence Stamp, man, I loved him so much in that movie. He played an amazing Zod. That was something.
He does a great job, especially for the time. But I have to say, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think that Michael Shannon, the work that he did in Man of Steel, of course, now take all this information with a grain of salt, because in my opinion, Man of Steel is in my top 5. I absolutely love that film. I think that everything that Terrence Stamp did amazing, Michael Shannon just elevated that and took it, and really is one of the most underrated film villains of the modern era, in my opinion. He did a great job.
So I think I do have a TikTok where I rank my top 10 favorite comic book movie villains, and I have both Zods on my list, and I do have Michael I believe higher than Terrence, because Michael definitely took that character to a whole new level. You feel his pain,
Yes.
Whereas with Terrence Stamp's Zod, I didn't get any of that. I just got this like warmonger who just loved to fight, and but with Michael's character, I got he really loved his people. He wanted to save his culture. He wanted to save his people at the end of the day.
And it's interesting that you bring that up too, because there was that one bit where when Superman finally brought everyone back to his Fortress of Solitude, and Zod, the first comments that he makes as soon as he walks into the Fortress of Solitude, he's like,
a sentimental replica of a planet long since vanished. No style at all.
He feels no remorse for the destruction of Krypton, or, he has nothing for Krypton, right? So what you brought up is really interesting, the differences between the two.
Well, have you noticed this? I don't know if many people notice this with comic book properties in general. Most of the villains nowadays, don't get me wrong, they're still psycho killers, but
Yeah.
they're usually trying to do something where they believe is good. And on the other side of the spectrum, it is good. Whereas back in, the 80s and 70s and even 60s, a villain was just a villain. They just wanted to kill, they wanted power. But nowadays, the villains have a message, and it's just so weird.
The sympathetic villain. And
exactly.
You're right.
I mean, look at Thanos from the MCU.
The ultimate sympathetic villain.
Exactly. He's the villains nowadays, they really seriously think they're doing good.
Yep. They think they're right. And that's what you're saying is very, very true. It wouldn't hurt if we had more villains like the Joker from The Dark Knight who just want to watch the world burn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't always have to have a sympathetic villain. A buddy of mine that I, did a podcast with like 12, 13 years ago. Anyway, we used to always talk about that. He used to not like the sympathetic, like the Dr. Octavius, the one that, oh, well, I had a chip right here and everything was under control. But then when the chip broke, everything's out the window. He didn't like those sympathetic villains. And you're right. We get a lot of sympathetic villains. Probably 95% of all the villains we get these days are sympathetic.
Oh, well, look at, I don't want to spoil anything, but I won't try to, but the new Batman movie, the Riddler, he is a prime example of everything we're talking about.
Exactly. And you can spoil it. It's fine. By the way, if anyone is watching this and they haven't seen the Batman yet, turn this off. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's look at the Riddler real quick. He actually thought that Batman was helping him.
Yep. Well, I think that decision that they made of him calling himself Vengeance and everyone calling him Vengeance, it was kind of like that path that he went on in the film where eventually he realized that him being Vengeance inspired the Riddler. Obviously, I mean, Riddler lays that out for him very plain as day. Yeah, so he realized that he had to become something more, Dustin. He had to become a symbol.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that maybe that's a reflection of our current culture, that, or maybe they just, in general, in the movie industry, they think it's more interesting to have a villain that is relatable, I guess, and thinks he's, obviously all villains think they're right, but I don't know. It definitely wouldn't hurt to just have a few maniacs thrown in there, I'm just doing this because I like to see destruction and chaos, an agent of chaos like the Joker. I think it's a reflection of our society for sure. Because like you said, 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was just like, I'm going to rule the world because that's what I want,
Exactly. Brings me back to the Adam West Batman days. All those villains, they wanted money and to rule the world. That was it. It was a simpler time for villains. They didn't have political agendas. They didn't want to save people.
Yep. So I guess, I don't know. Everything was just simpler back in those days too. I don't know why my brain just went to this, but even professional wrestling, in the 70s and 80s, to be a heel or a bad guy, all you had to do was grab a microphone and say, I hate St. Louis, or wherever they were wrestling at that night. And it was super easy and everyone instantly hated you and started booing you. But nowadays, the fans are more smart to that sort of thing, and they're going to cheer you if they want to cheer you. And if you come out and say, hey, St. Louis, they're not going to automatically just pop for that. So I don't know. I guess it's just the society that we live in now.
Yeah, now as a wrestler, you actually have to be a good guy and then become the bad guy. Like that's what people
earn
want.
Their respect.
You have to, you have to earn that heel.
Yep. We're getting so off topic, but
that's the best part of this of fandom. You start one place and you end up talking about wrestling.
I'll say this too about the scene where the Kryptonians land on the moon. Something about how that was shot and the music and the tone that was set there, it was very well done. It hurt my heart whenever that guy was trying to get away from Ursa and Ursa just pulled that badge off. Like that was, I mean, even though, it was a PG movie that was shot like we're talking about in 1980 or 1979, probably, just the way that was done really like made you feel for that astronaut, you know? There wasn't many moments like that in the film. Like later on in the film, when you have the Kryptonians and Superman fighting in the middle of Metropolis, you don't really get that sense of dread. You kind of get more of like a cheesiness, you know, because you have the whole bit where they're, you know, blowing everyone back, and you got the roller skater and the guy that's on the telephone, you know. You don't get that sense of seriousness and dread throughout the film, but in that one little bit right there on the moon, that was pretty rough, man. Like I said, it hurt my heart. What'd you think?
Yeah. No, same way. Yeah, most of that 90% of the movie's cheesy, but yeah, that scene, yeah, that's definitely tugs on you. And you know, it's weird because that should have set the tone for the movie, and then it's like, oh wait, why am I laughing?
Yep.
maybe back in the 80s when it came out, we weren't alive when it came out, but maybe, you know, they weren't laughing, and they, you know, that was something to them, you know. But yeah, because we've been so spoiled with CGI and amazing writing that, yeah, that stuff don't hold up for us.
100%, man. Yeah, 100%. Poor Otis, man. He gets the shaft in this one, right?
Yes, he does.
Ned Beatty.
He left in the prison. Ned, it sucks he's gone. Most of his movies, though, he gets shafted.
Yeah, he did.
He was always the punchline.
He played, it seems like everything after his role in Deliverance, he just, I don't know, maybe that was the time period, you know, I don't know. Maybe he was just viewed differently after that scene where he got, you know, for lack of a better term, raped in Deliverance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting to see, like, you know, after that, all of his roles were just, he was a good actor, talented actor.
He was. He probably shouldn't have done the Purple People Eater movie. I think that's where he ruined himself.
I've never seen that, but you probably have a lot more knowledge about film history than I do.
It's terrible.
Purple People Eater.
It's got him and Neil Patrick Harris and a big purple monster alien from space that loves to sing.
Interesting. So this is a slightly modern film if it's got Neil Patrick Harris in it.
No, this was Neil Patrick when he was 12.
Okay.
This came out in, I want to say like 84, 83, somewhere in that time period. It might have been before that.
In the Doogie Howser days.
Yeah, well, before.
Okay.
Or right before that.
I'll have to check it out, man. That has me intrigued.
I think it is on YouTube, free to watch. But it's so bad.
Yes. We get a lot of made up powers, and I think that's another big issue for me for Superman. You know, like there's one bit in the movie where he takes the S off of his chest and he just throws it and it wraps around Zod like saran wrap. I just thought that was so odd. And another thing, a lot of this stuff would not hurt Kryptonians. Like, you know, I don't care if a Kryptonian takes a sewer lid and throws it at another Kryptonian. It's still not going to hurt him. It's just going to hit him, and he's just going to look down and be like, okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Even with maybe with the Force thrown, it could do something. But yeah, I don't know.
Because if you think about it, like when you go to Superman Returns, that came out in the mid 2000s, right? They take a needle and they try to inject Superman with medicine. And what happens to the needle? It just bends. Right. You know, it doesn't affect him whatsoever. So I think that's interesting how they were throwing trucks at each other like that would do anything. And then when Zod took that big piece of concrete and threw it at Superman and he lasered it, you know, he could have just let it hit him and, you know, maybe the rubble would have been up on the rooftops, but him lasering it created lots of debris that fell down below, you know, which probably realistically would have killed hundreds of people. But let's talk about that fight a little bit. What did you think about the big fight in Metropolis with those four?
It was cheesy as hell. It was no Man of Steel fight.
Yep.
But for the time period, it was something. And, you know, when I was a little kid, I enjoyed the hell out of that scene.
Oh,
you know, I can't watch it now and take that seriously. Or when I was a kid, it was something. As an adult, I can't watch that and just not be laughing the whole time.
It's not the same. Like I said in the intro of this video, I appreciate everything these films did for comic book history, comic book cinema, but they just don't hold up.
Well, I have not watched the Lester version since, well, when did the Donner version come out? Ever since the Donner version, whenever the Donner version got released, I only watched the Donner cut, but I still go back and watch.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. The Lester version was the theatrical release, and the Donner cut,
we got way later on. But I still go back and watch these movies, and they're still a good time. At the end of the day, now I have a little sister. She's 11. Like, we'll watch like Man of Steel or like Justice League, and then I'll show her these movies, and she'll be like, why are we still watching this 10 minutes into it? So I think the newer generation doesn't really appreciate all these films all that much, but I don't know. It's still nice to go back, and it's also nostalgia reasons. It's still nice to go back and watch them.
Well, we have so much selection these days. We are literally spoiled, rotten, like you said earlier. I mean, we have 5-6 comic book movies come out every year. And at that time, when you and I were growing up, we only had like maybe 6 comic book movies altogether, maybe 7 or 8. But I mean, the quality levels were not very high. And this one was one of the greats at that time.
Yeah, back 80s and early 90s, we got 1, maybe 2 comic book movies a year. And now there is a comic book property dropped every week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. Yes, we are very spoiled.
And some of your comic book movies in the 90s would be The Phantom and The Shadow.
I loved those movies. I still watch them every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen The Phantom. I probably need to go back and watch it because when I say it's been a long time, it's been a long time.
So I try to watch those movies like once a year. Actually, they still hold up. The Rocketeer still holds up.
Yes.
Ones that don't, I can't watch Bob Wire or Tank Girl anymore. They're just so bad.
I never saw either one of those, believe it or not. But when Barbed Wire came out, my parents were very strict. So I was a huge Pamela Anderson fan. I don't think there was any boy our age that wasn't. I didn't get to watch Barbed Wire, and it's one of those films that I never went back to watch. I did, however, recently watch Pam and Tommy on Hulu.
Amazing.
And it was very interesting to see, when that film came out, it was very poorly received, to say, to word it in a nice way. Yeah. I mean, that was supposed to be her movie that kind of took her career off doing something other than Baywatch. But moral of the story, we didn't get very much back in the 90s. And these days, we're just swarmed with content, great superhero films. I mean, the Eternals, everyone was so hard on the Eternals, rightfully so. But at the end of the day, the Eternals is better than anything that we had in the 90s. Like, literally, like, hands down. So with that being said, I think that if I had to rate this film on a scale from 1 to 10, the most generous rating that I could give it would be a 5.5. And I think, honestly, that's being generous. An argument could be made for 4 or even 3. But that's, in my mind, that's kind of where it fits in because, like I said, for nostalgia's sake, it still holds on to that 5.5 for me. What you think, Dustin?
So this is because I used to be, as you can see, a paid film critic back in the day. What I do with older films, like stuff before 2000, is I'll give it a rating for back in the day, what I would have given it then, and I give it what I would give it now. Okay. And I'll go with the Donner cut because I have not watched the Lester cut in forever. I would have gave Superman 2, especially if the Donner cut would have got released theatrically. I would have gave it like a 7 or 8 out of 10 for what it was. Watching it now, it would obviously get a 2 out of 10.
This doesn't hold up.
It does not. It would be if it came out now and was that, it would be something you'd see on the Sci-Fi Channel. Actually, it would be poorer quality than that, actually.
TCM, Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah. The only redeeming quality of the Superman movies, if you take out the nostalgia factor, the actors. I mean, Gene Hackman was fantastic. Reeves is always fantastic. what's her name? Margaret, Lois,
Margot Kidder.
Fantastic. Kidder, yeah. But besides that, the special effects, the story weren't that great. And I know earlier you said you liked Superman 4, or you want,
Okay.
I got to hear this.
Superman 4, that is the film that my parents had recorded on VHS, when I was a very, very young age. And I watched it a lot. And for the time, since it's a movie that I grew up watching so many times. I mean, every kid has that movie that they watch all the time. For my little girl, it's Frozen. For me, it would be Superman 4, unfortunately, The Quest for Peace. And I realize that this film is just like Superman 2, just like Superman 1, just like Superman 3. But for me personally, it just holds a special place. There are some redeemable qualities if you really take a look at it through a very large microscope. There are some redeemable qualities about that film. I mean, the look of Nuclear Man, the one that ended up making it into the film before the original Nuclear Man, but that's a whole nother conversation. This in itself is a whole nother video. But
it really is.
I'll just say that it holds a special place in my heart. And I am such a hard-headed and stubborn person that I will argue my opinion until, even if I know that it's terribly wrong and no one on earth agrees with me. I'm not trying to say that it's better than Superman, Man of Steel or anything like that, obviously. But the biggest argument that I will make, I think, and this is an unpopular opinion, I think that Superman 4 is better than Superman 3.
See, Superman 3, for me, it's the story. I absolutely love the story of Superman 3. But
the only good thing about Superman 3 is the fight that he has internally within himself in the junkyard, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the supercomputer at the end was so cheesy. At least with Nuclear Man, you had a being that was of equal strength to Superman. He had a really cool look for the time. In my little 5 or 6 year old mind, when I saw it, the first dozen times, that felt like a big deal to me. Those two meeting up and fighting, it felt like it gave me the same feeling that I got in theaters when I saw the Avengers for the first time. I don't know. It just felt like a big deal to me, and it's hard to explain, but that's how I feel.
No, it was. I do remember when Quest for Peace came out, and I remember, being like, okay, oh my gosh, like watching Superman 3, it's like, okay, finally Superman's going to have somebody like Zod who he can go toe to toe with, and it's going to be amazing. And then I watched the movie, and
the fights are terrible. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, they are. Even Christopher Reeves, who not only plays Superman in these movies, but he also wrote that movie, came out and said, I wish I didn't do that movie at all. I'll give you this. This is my only redeeming quality of that movie. Out of all the movies, it has the coolest poster and box art.
Yeah. Well, hey, at least you said something positive about it.
That is my only redeeming quality of that movie. It did have the best poster, and when it came on VHS, it did have the best box art.
Yep. Dustin, thank you so much for joining me today. Everyone else at home, what do you think of Superman 2? Let us know down in the comments. If you haven't already, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We drop 2 videos a week, so click the bell to get notifications every time we release a new video. You can check us out on Instagram at Real Comic Book Cinema, as well as TikTok. And by the way, Mr. Dustin, would you like to plug your TikTok?
Yeah, it's Nerdy Dustin. I go on there and I talk about all my nerdy hobbies, movies, comic books. So yeah, definitely come check me out.
Thanks for joining us today, man. And everyone else, have a wonderful day.